Hey guys, it's Sasha. Tesla stock is in big trouble. So far this year, Tesla stock is the worst performing stock in the S&P 500, down 34% in less than 3 months. Tesla has been cutting prices on their cars, but Tesla will struggle to hit its first quarter delivery numbers, and so analysts are panicking. Wells Fargo just cut their price target from $200 to $125. A real estate agent with a small PP has sold his entire position in Tesla and immediately went short for one day from Wednesday to Thursday last week, which I am told is very important. Popular social media personalities pretending to be fund managers are busy selling all 10 of their Tesla shares that they used to own. And here is a post I made in July last year on Twitter. You can see that Tesla has progressed from number 4 to number 6 on this Cybertruck timeline list because now they are making the Cybertruck, but some of the early cars have panel gaps. A few weeks ago, Marcus Brownlee reviewed Fisker, saying it's the worst car he has ever reviewed, and shortly after, that company went bankrupt. That controversial video quickly became by far the best performing video on MBKHD's new car review channel. So now, in completely unrelated news, just a few hours ago, he posted a video called Living with Tesla Cybertruck So You Don't Have To. So I guess Tesla is now also doomed. The internet is exploding because an early production Cybertruck has a door misalignment issue, which according to Elon Musk will take a whole 5 minutes to fix at a Tesla service center. Most fund managers and retail investors have an investing outlook measured in microseconds, so the only thing that matters to these people is the next quarterly result. And growth in that next report, as well as the whole of 2024, is expected to be slow for Tesla because the macroeconomic conditions have not yet recovered from the inflation spike, and interest rates are still at the highest level in the last 16 years. So buying a new car for $50,000 or whatever is not on the agenda for a lot of people. And it is interesting how much attention the media circus and investors pay to short-term swings, things that don't have any real long-term impact, how little attention anyone pays to genuine long-term indicators, because all of these points are true. The Cybertruck does have a few teething issues because they've just started production. Deliveries this year will be soft based on all the data that we have, with only a relatively small amount of growth year over year. Margins for Tesla are under pressure because of the price cuts, and the real estate agent does have a small PP because his PP ETF only manages $40 million, and from what I understand, the majority of that is his own money. I guess for some weird reason, most people with brains do not want a random real estate agent with the emotional intelligence of a mentally challenged raccoon managing their money. But here is a thought. The exact results for the next quarter are not actually particularly important when you value any company, because they made a few thousand cars more or less in the month of February 2024 is kind of irrelevant when you're trying to figure out where the company might be headed in 2035 and why. Now, sometimes it is good to know if there are cracks in the foundations, if there are fundamental problems with the business, if there are issues that may prevent the business from doing well long term. If the reason for the slowdown is because, Tesla has lost way with its production. Maybe the factories are aging, the processes are being outdated, the competitors are outperforming, they suddenly have finally arrived and are taking Tesla's market share. The facts, though, say the exact opposite is happening. In Q1, Tesla's been upgrading their production lines for the new Tesla Model 3, and they've had multiple force majeure shutdowns when part supply stopped because of the war in Yemen that closed the Suez Canal, and then the German environmentalists burned down the power supply to the Berlin factory. At the same time, while Tesla continues growing overall, Ford has stopped producing the Ford F-150 Lightning electric truck. GM were going to have 20 electric vehicles on sale by 2023 and dominate the market, but in the most recent quarter, at the end of 2023, GM sold less than 20,000 electric cars. And whether people like it or not, we're all switching to electric vehicles because they are better than internal combustion vehicles in every single way. And if you are looking long term, who is challenging Tesla's growing lead? Because every quarter that lead is increasing. Is it Rivian? The company that has $7.8 billion in cash and another $1.5 billion in short-term investments, so roughly $9.3 billion in total. And in the last year, they burned $4.9 billion in operations and another $1 billion in capex, so they have less than 2 years of money left before they go bankrupt or they need to raise a lot of money to survive. In the most recent quarter, they lost $123,000 per car that they produced. This is way worse, significantly worse than Tesla ever had when they were starting out and growing. And I know that a lot of investors invested in Rivian without looking at the numbers because it's the next Tesla, but unfortunately the numbers there look grim. Then there's Lucid, who sold 6,001 vehicles in 2023, roughly in the number that one of Tesla's new factories in Berlin does in a week. Lucid has shown themselves to be operationally incapable, and the only question is how long will their Saudi owners keep the life support going. So investors are absolutely losing their shit with Tesla's sales numbers only growing slowly this year, while every other major US competitor is self-destructing. And at the same time, Volkswagen has said that the tough market is affecting car sales growth in 2024 for them. Hyundai EV sales in February are down by 50%. BYD sales are down significantly in January and February. But ignore all that because all of that is data, and who cares about data? The fact that Tesla is experiencing the same exact difficult market conditions as everybody else is a major problem for Tesla only. And so you should probably just panic and sell all of your stock. And why is this important? Well, because in 10 or 15 years' time, it will be completely irrelevant. Nobody will remember or care how many Teslas were sold in February 2024 or in China in the second week of March 2024. Long-term investors who are obsessed with these short-term numbers, who stay up until 3 a.m. to find out how many car registrations happened in China, are not long-term investors. They're just fueling their gambling addiction. The question is not how did Q1 this year compare to Q4 last year. The question is how is Tesla positioned for EV production dominance in 2035 compared to everybody else, and how is that dynamic changing? And at the moment, Tesla is the only company on the planet that have figured out how to sell electric cars at a decent profit, while all the legacy automakers are cancelling and slowing down their EV plans instead of accelerating them. And then remember that Tesla's energy business is growing as well, with better margins than the car business, and in the last couple of weeks, Tesla has released full self-driving version 12.3, which looks like the biggest step forward in full self-driving tech in the last few years. The ChatGPT moment for full self-driving systems. If you cut through the noise, Tesla is years, if not decades ahead of any other competitor in developing a self-driving system, because the only alternatives on the market that exist are either heavily predicated on specific circumstances, like it has to be during daylight hours without any rain, with the sun being there but not too bright so that it doesn't blind the cameras, and you must be going under 40 miles an hour on a freeway, which doesn't make any sense, following another car, of course, because it can't drive by itself. Or that operating system has to work in a pre-mapped 3D map of a particular small part of a city so that it knows exactly what its surroundings are meant to be, so that it can just identify where on the map it is at any point by checking what's around it. Those systems are basically small trams that drive along a road instead of along a track. If anything in the environment changes, like the road layout, the system just stops working. If they go anywhere outside of the small limit area that they have pre-mapped, they can't operate. They physically are not able to do it. The Waymos and the Cruisers, wait, those guys just went out of business, right? And all the rest of that junk is like the web-enabled smartphones that did exist before the first iPhone came out. You remember that junk? The sort of technically they do give you access to the internet via WAP or whatever, and you might even be able to send an email if you're really lucky, but it's fundamentally just not the same thing. It's not a practically useful generalized solution that works for everything. That is the big difference. The new software still has some glitches and issues. It's not perfect, but from what I can see, the number of takeovers needed and the general number of issues has reduced dramatically. And you're now looking at a timeline where there is a very reasonable likelihood that FSD is going to be driving at above average human capability relatively soon. And from there, the question becomes, how much better than a human does it need to be for it to switch from a level 2 driver assist system to a level 4 system where the driver does not need to pay active attention? Because when that happens, whenever that happens, that is going to be a once in a generation kind of development, because that will buy people the one thing that money normally cannot buy. It will buy time. Instead of sitting in a traffic jam staring in the car in front on the way to work, you can catch up with your work emails and do some prep instead. Instead of sitting for 3 hours holding the steering wheel on the way to see your parents at the weekend, you can relax and watch a movie on the way. And a big reason why I am personally invested in Tesla is because this is not like ChatGPT, because you can't just go and steal information of every website in the world to train a model to do your driving. No, you have to go and get the data. You have to collect billions of hours of data from real-world driving scenarios, from cameras pointing in every direction from the car, along with the telemetry of the car to know what the car is doing at the time. You then have to work out how to label and interpret this data so that your models can actually use it to learn, because it's not already in text. You have to build inference of things like where the edges of the road are in different situations, yada yada. You have to train the model on how to interpret things like signs obscured by leaves. And at the moment, there is only one company in the world that has this data, has any reasonable amount of this data and this capability, and that company is Tesla, because every Tesla on the road collects this information using their cameras. And some of that data then gets uploaded into the Tesla built datasets. And Tesla has millions of cars on the road collecting this data every day, while nobody else does. This makes it impossible for any competitor to catch up, because Tesla have already sold customers the device that is now collecting the data necessary to build that game-changing product. And this is going to change the world, and I'm not exaggerating. I know some stubborn people out there will tell themselves that they actively enjoy spending 2 hours of every day sitting there staring at the car in front of them. But I can tell you now that when full self-driving software arrives, everybody is going to want to switch to it as soon as it is available. There will be a few idiots, but 99%. And this will mean two things. First, demand for Tesla cars will go through the roof again, because they are the only car wired up and equipped for full self-driving. And second, every other car manufacturer in the world will be forced to buy Tesla software off Tesla to sell it to their customers. Maybe this will be an expensive OEM installation license. Maybe it will be a subscription service, but Tesla software will be to cars what Windows is to computers. Tesla will own the App Store. Tesla will own all the additional software sales, and people who live in cities will probably use robotaxis. I discussed the impacts of this on Tesla's valuation with members of my Discord 2 days ago. The short summary is, this opportunity is really fucking big. Last year, every car manufacturer in North America pledged to switch to using Tesla's North American charging standard instead of the old CCS connectors whenever they come to build those electric cars, that is. And this happened because Tesla built an unassailable lead in charging infrastructure, and it was just so much better than anything else on the market, while all the other companies sat around twiddling their thumbs and scratching their balls until they had no choice but to sign with Tesla. Now, Tesla is busy building a much bigger unassailable lead in a much more profitable business segment. This is software as a service with relatively negligible incremental cost per user. This is a free money printing machine, a bit like the machine that Microsoft built in the 1990s, except this one adds a few more zeros on the end. But the stock market does not care. The stock market is not paying attention because the stock market's long-term outlook does not extend past the tip of their nose. They are still sitting there, scratching their heads, bashing their calculator, trying to work out exactly how many cars Tesla sold in February 2024.